Alright, so I'm trying to platinum over 100 games in a list created by the community. Now, if I can't do this before the channel hits 850,000 subscribers, then I will shave my head bald and look like a base character from a video game. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Alright, so today I decided to platinum Mafia 2. This is the sequel to the obvious classic Mafia game, also in which I made a video on somewhat recently, but let's not dilly-dally. Mafia 2 has only 48 trophies, including the platinum trophy. It takes around 25 hours to get if you do 2 playthroughs, which is not needed. Just a little bit helpful for your own enjoyment. Stage 1 is just beat the story on the game while gathering all of the Playboy magazine collectibles on the way, since those are the only missable collectibles in the game. Also, this is where you could do an easy playthrough with collectibles and then a hard one after, but I just did a hard playthrough while getting collectibles to speed up the game. Mafia 2 is yet again a kind of flashback story like the first one, where your main character is sort of just reminiscing on his past adventures. We play as Vito Scaletta, and the game is set within the city of Empire Bay in the 1940s, which is classic Mafia time. Vito is also a war veteran, which is why the game's intro picks up in the war as a matter of fact, and the entirety of this massive 10-minute long chapter just had us doing combat as you would imagine a war to do. But it all ends when some American dude just strolls in and sweet talks us all, making the war literally just ceasefire, or at least where we are. And the first trophy of the day also popped from finishing the first chapter. So Vito is now back home in Empire City, and this is when all of the Mafia stuff really begins to kick off for our boy. Mostly because he needs a job and his buddy Joe is kind of already in with the Mafia. He proves this by getting Vito put back on the injured and ineligible list for the military, so Vito no longer needs to go back in. Vito also decided for himself to take up Joe's Mafia offer once he realized that staying at mom's place ain't gonna cut it for him. And as he was leaving his mom's apartment, on the way out he noticed his sister down on the street getting into a heated altercation with a man. So we of course had to fight him. And the game then shows us the wondrous fist-fighting mechanic it has to offer. Once I knocked out the dude, I also got a trophy from saving little sis in the process. There was then already a chapter-specific trophy in this game, and I say already because there's only around 3 to 4 of these in total throughout the story. But it's from just standing by and eavesdropping so rudely on a couple as the husband fails to fix their car and then calls her a fat whale and walks off like XQC to the courtroom. I then swoop in and fix the engine within a mere 5 seconds, lasting long enough to get this trophy, which is shocking. Our objective for chapter 2, by the way, was to meet up with Joe and just crash at his place before getting some work going. But upon arriving there, we find Joe absolutely swimming in the woman. However, bros before hoes, and he let us in right away. The two then chatted up for a hot minute before that cutscene ended and we were off to continue the story. Before leaving his room, I also found the first Playboy magazine of the day and got the first collectible trophy from it. Joe then took us to a few side character locations who have various different uses, like the garage guy who can upgrade your car and all of that fun stuff, and then Mike Brewski, who likes to collect cars from us in the form of salvage scrap and give us good money in return. He also gave us our first job of the day, which was to go steal a car that he wanted. A tiny dash of mass murder was also part of the description, but it was in the fine print and I couldn't see it. However, after securing the car and driving it back, we got a trophy and a fat wad of cash. And that was it for chapter 2, so upon hitting the hay, or rather lice-infested couch for the night, I got the chapter trophy from just that. Chapter 3 then began, and this time we didn't hold Joe's hand and instead went out to forge our own destiny. God, that sounds like a Nintendo game slogan. But no, seriously, we went to find actual legal work. Turns out all they had to offer was Vietnamese child wages loading crates onto a truck, which Vito obviously wasn't about and quit essentially. However, we got offered an alternative gig, which was to go rough up dock workers for their money. Most of them gave it to us, however, one strong guy refused and we got to then scrap with him. I won, of course, got his money, gave it to the puppet master above, and I also did get a little cut and a trophy from doing that. Chapter 3, however, was much longer than the previous ones and we got given another job to do. That being to break into this place and steal some info and money from a safe locked box. There was also a trophy here from eliminating all of the guards and opening the safe without being seen or caught, so I did that, which wasn't too bad actually, since there was only like 3 guards, and after I opened the safe securely, grabbed the goods and ran out, the trophy from that popped. And it was a shockingly busy night for our pal Vito here, because another job happened right after that, having us deliver cigarettes to a bunch of gas stations around the area before midnight, because apparently after that it's too late to smoke. I also barely got this, by the way, since it was kind of a tight time limit, but upon finishing I did also get a trophy. I then drove my car to the mechanic shop to fix it up because all the delivering had me looking like the family car out here, and I also asked the guy to tune it for shits and giggles, which gave me another trophy added on. But finally that was it for the chapter, and after going to sleep I got the chapter 3 trophy. Chapter 4 was then completely different than the previous one, which I love about this game. I don't really think the remaster is good in terms of technological advancements. The game kinda runs like balls and plays like a 2, let's be honest, but the story is pretty good, which is kind of the Mafia trend. However, each chapter is a lot different than the other. For example, chapter 4 was not multiple jobs. It was one singular store robbery gone wrong inside of a mall, which caused mass chaos and lots of fun for us. Not so much for the police force we were decimating over a few diamond rings though. But long story short, the job went wrong, and as you've been seeing, we just got chased by the police a lot, the expected outcome. However, the final part was to escape in a car, and once I did, the mission was over. And I had a new objective of sleeping to advance the game. So here is that chapter 4 trophy. Upon beginning chapter 5 and before any main story actions, there was a side mission that kind of just popped up next to Joe's apartment, and it had us pretty much just beat up some guy who totally ran into this girl's car and was trying to pretend like it wasn't his fault. But I ended up beating him senseless, both because he deserved it, but also, I mean, come on now, gotta impress the ladies, you know what I'm saying. And that was also a trophy which I was unaware of but would gladly take. I was then heading to my next main story objective after getting some new details from the Mafia boss, as they call him, and I accidentally got a trophy from getting some crazy airtime with a car. Who knew cars could fly back in the 1940s? I had no idea. Anyways, this chapter's main mission was us chasing after some evil dudes in a building. But before going in, I got a trophy outside of it from killing 50 enemies. Some would say that's psychopathic, but I say that's just the job, damn it. Anyways, this mission was surprisingly hard compared to previous ones because the combat finally kicked in with that hard difficulty we were on. And I did die a few times here, I'm not gonna lie. But the most annoying part about dying in this game is the saving features. You almost never get to go back right into the fight. Instead, it places you minutes and minutes before usually having to restart the entire mission again, which is just swell. And this was also a trend throughout the entire game, making for some very frustrating moments later on. Also, this mission was entirely just us killing people until the building kind of maybe burned down and we had to escape, heading all the way back home to end the chapter once more and getting another story trophy. But after doing that, some other Mafia boss was angry for all the destruction we were causing and decided to put a hit on us to get us thrown in jail. And they successfully did that, which is why the next chapter was all in jail for Vito's 7-year prison sentence or however long it was. And the developers condensed all of that into like 30 minutes of a chapter, and you guys say my videos are too short, come on now. But the entire prison chapter almost all consisted of just straight up fist fighting, which is actually awesome. A great representation of what prison is, I imagine. Never been before, but probably will end up at some point. Anyways, all of the fights trained us for the finale against the final prison boss, who we beat and then executed with a knife throat style. Talk about the throat goat. So yeah, that was the prison part of chapter 7. And here's that trophy before we got sent back to Empire City to just pick right on up with Mafia business. And they say there's never two-time offenders. Alright, bro. Anyways, on to chapter 7 in the city. It actually had us doing almost zero Mafia activity. Instead, we just kind of partied and everyone got wasted with escorts, as they like to be called. An alternative title for an escort is your mother, by the way. But after the partying, we finished chapter 7 finally and got its respectable trophy. Chapter 8 then had us first trying to make a buck or two from selling cigs to the boys out of a truck, but let's be honest, $2 a pop ain't making nobody rich. So we went after a more ludicrous job, which involved us shooting a ton of people and causing mass crime, all in the effort of chasing an antique car, which is honestly valid. This car is sick. So I then drove it back to the guy giving us all of these jobs, and we also found out about how to sell cars at the docks, which is another feature of the game to make money on high-end car sales. I then had to return the money made from that car sale to a dude named Eddie at a bar, and that was it for chapter 8 with its trophy pop right here. Chapter 9 then had Vito sneak into an enemy meat processing plant through the sewers to save 3 of our guys from the enemies interrogating them. There was a lot of combat and we also lost a brother on the way, but then after making it out, I had to go back to the Mafia's bar and talk to the ringleader guy who said I stink. Yeah, that was his first words to me after almost dying for him. And I then got forced to go buy a suit, so I did, but that also gave me a trophy, by the way. And before chapter 9's end, Vito finally got inaugurated into the family, joining the Mafia for real this time. No takesy-backsies now, or we'll probably get killed. But that was also the end of chapter 9 and I got a trophy as usual. Chapter 10 then had a much more cool direction, and it had us first infiltrating some business tower where an opposing Mafia was having a massive meeting with all the leaders and stuff. And we managed to plant a bomb under their conference table, then blew it up while they were having a meeting. Almost everyone died, but there was still goons everywhere, so we had to fight through that before making it to the parking garage and chasing down the main leader, who got away somehow. However, we did catch up to him and Joe put some rounds into the brother. The rest of the chapter was then much more chill, and I had to crush a car to hide evidence, which was also a trophy. I then slept to end the chapter and got its trophy in addition. Chapter 11 then had us save one of the Mafia bosses we know who had a hit out on him from some other dude. You know, just a casual Thursday in the Mafia. And there was also the final chapter specific trophy here from saving him without being caught. No, I did this, but also the game like glitched since I went too fast or skipped the cutscene on accident too quickly. I don't really know what happened, but I got the trophy and then it just got stuck on a loading screen for 10 minutes. So that's great. Remastered my ass. This game is definitively garbage, bro. After that though, a bunch of Irishmen then burned down Vito's home and I escaped by running away into the night in my undies, so that's also public embarrassment, which is why we then killed them all at their crappy Irish pub. And I got a trophy from doing that, hilariously called the End of the Rainbow. rainbow. That was also it for the chapter, and we got another trophy after it ended for good. So there's only a few chapters left now, and this is where Vito's villain arc kind of kicked in because he found out that the Mafia he has been working for is kind of the same one that got his father killed way back in the day. So it's sort of a vengeance trip now, if you will. Anyways, chapter 12 had us first invent a new fashion style with Vito. Maybe one day it'll catch on, bro. Maybe one day. But then we had a massive combat section against fake police officers in some warehouse, which took me ages because I kept on dying, and it was an entire reset of the combat section every death, so that's awesome. But after escaping and driving back to the safe house, I got the chapter 12 trophy. Chapter 13 then had us find our boy Henry stabbed to death in a park by the Chinese. And then we set a vendetta on the Chinese Mafia, or Yakuza, if you will. The rest of the chapter then had us just fighting them all China style. I also got a combat trophy in this mess, so that's cool. And that was also it for chapter 13's fun, unless you consider lung cancer with the boys fun at the end before the trophy popped. Chapter 14 then began, and this is the second to last one. Before doing anything in it though, we got a trophy pop from us seeing a cutscene that happened in the previous game, but then we got to deal with the after effects, which was a lot of escaping police, and it kind of sucked low-key. But the ending of chapter 14 then had Vito finally take out the man who killed his father, and I'm not kidding when I say this. It is the hardest combat section in the game, mostly because they gave the dude we have to kill infinite Molotovs and a ton of goons. A horrible combo sure to end your happiness inside, and it did to me. That is before I just had some patience and then took him down after plotting, if you know what I mean. But once I killed the evil dude, it gave us another trophy. I also had to make some money so we didn't get screwed over by someone, and to make the remaining funds I just scrapped cars over and over, and I ended up scrapping enough for a trophy, so that's pretty neat. I also reached the top speed of over 125 miles per hour in a car on the highway for another trophy. Me and Joe then found ourselves in a pickle before the end of the chapter, getting caught up in more fighting, but we escaped, and then the chapter ended for another trophy. So now it's chapter 15, and this is the final chapter of the story, but I'm kind of upset because the last two chapters sort of sucked in my opinion, and this game's ending is also kind of trash, or at least lackluster. For one, I think the story should have leaned more on Vito's father's death and avenging him instead of just doing another lame final boss fight in a cool place like the previous game. I mean, if we were being real, Mafia 1 and Mafia 2 have near identical endings. It's literally formatted the exact same, so that kind of does suck. I also did die a lot here, which made the ending suck even more than it probably did. But overall, the final chapter just had us chase down this Mafia leader who wanted to kill us, and we killed him instead, which was then literally it. And I got 3 trophies from the chapter ending, beating the game and beating it on hard. Also, this game has no free roam after the story for miscellaneous trophies. My disappointment is immeasurable. Anyways, now it's time for stage 2 or 3 depending on if you did hard mode first or not, but it's basically just a cleanup for random trophies and collectibles through chapter select. And the first trophy I got here was actually from finding all of the Playboy magazines. I ended up missing one single magazine in a previous chapter out of the 50, so it was a very quick hunt to find it. I then tuned my car to max possible and got another trophy. It then took me, and I kid you not, an hour of driving that car to get 50 miles with it driven in one session, and while keeping it at 30 miles per hour for 5 minutes straight or more, which is a lot harder than it sounds because this means you have to take every turn at 30 miles per hour and also avoid crashing and hitting any other dumb NPC on the road, which is a feat in itself. However, I did get that first and well before the 50 miles. I guess I really underestimated how long it takes to drive that far because it took forever to get again. But as usual, I got it eventually after much more driving. I then went after a trophy called Exporter from selling 5 cars on the dock selling place. And it's very easily done by just chasing down the same luxury car in the same parking lot nearby over and over until doing it 5 times and getting the trophy. Next up, I had to drive 30 different cars, and before even going for this, I had already driven 26 different cars, so I just went to my garage and hopped in and out of cars until finding new ones and getting the trophy pop. But the trophy after took much more effort. I had to rob 5 stores within 5 minutes, and this is quite hard, but only if the NPCs fight back or you accidentally start a gang war, which I did both of those. However, on the run I did successfully, nobody fought back, and I got 5 stores robbed with ease for the trophy. I then had to last 10 minutes on high police chase, which just means you were getting chased by police for 10 minutes without it stopping. And the guide for this game says the perfect way to do this, which is just to hide in an alley and occasionally peek to refresh the meter. After 10 minutes, the trophy is then yours. I also farmed 30 melee kills on this chapter mission as well, from just punching a few policemen in the face in honor of that one parking ticket I got back in 2023. My final trophy was then to find every single wanted poster in the game, which sadly with the definitive edition release, they added 30 new ones in, which meant I had to find 189 total. And this took me quite a while to get, as you would expect. I think it was around 4 to 5-ish hours to find all of them, which isn't horrible in the grand scheme of things, but my total playtime on this game was also around 18 hours. So seeing such a large portion being from me just driving around and picking up collectibles, that's kind of crazy. However, I did follow some good video guides and I didn't miss any, saving myself from confusion purgatory and getting the last one right here with the trophy and platinum trophy pop. So that was the Mafia 2 platinum trophy experience. I honestly don't think this game is crazy good. I actually kind of got bored of it while playing, It's basically just Mafia 1 but with less story depth and an honestly very similar story. Also, it crashed numerous times, ran like dog water when driving, and the shooting mechanics are horrid. So yeah, that's why I said it was garbage in the title. No hard feelings. But that's basically it. Rating the game out of 10, I'll give it a solid 5.4. And I'll see you guys soon with more. He never enjoys a game. It's Illusion. He hates every game he plays. Shut